Imagine a trading floor that never smells of cigarettes or coffee, only data. Somewhere in that quiet, invisible space, an engine hums. It reads satellite images of smokestacks, supplier payroll filings, and CEO interviews. It digests carbon disclosures, court records, and local news in dozens of languages. It scores companies not just on profit, but on planetary risk and people risk. This is AI for ESG investing, where algorithms hunt for companies that aren't just profitable, but sustainable, and where machine intelligence peels back corporate glossy brochures to expose what really matters. The new lens: what AI sees when it looks for ESG. Most investors still think of ESG as a checkbox, a logo on a report or a flashy sustainability page on a website. But AI doesn't take labels at face value. It sees raw signals. Carbon footprints measured from disclosed emissions and inferred emissions from suppliers, shipping routes, and energy consumption data. Labor practices derived from regulatory filings, worker complaint databases, and anonymized employment records. Biodiversity exposure via satellite imagery that detects deforestation or land use change near company operations. Board diversity and governance, signals pulled from director bios, voting records, and controversy timelines. AI converts these disparate pieces into quantitative features, numbers that tell a story. A model might flag a textile company that reports low emissions, but whose supply chain satellite imagery shows expanding deforestation in raw material regions. That contradiction is a red flag AI spots far faster than human analysts buried in PDF reports. From words to scores, natural language and image intelligence. The magic here is twofold: natural language understanding and computer vision. NLP models read earnings calls, sustainability reports, regulatory filings, and social media to extract tone, mentions, and commitments. They detect evasive language, missing metrics, or sudden changes in rhetoric. For instance, a sudden increase in restructuring or supply disruption, mentions tied with regional news, might indicate hidden labor issues. Computer vision scans, satellite images, factory photos, and product packaging to verify claims. Is that solar farm actually there? Is that greenfield really a preserved forest? Image-derived features tie physical reality to corporate narratives. Together, these capabilities let AI create ESG profiles with granularity and speed that humans cannot match. But speed and granularity are not the same as truth. They are the start of a rigorous verification journey. Detecting greenwashing. When green looks too good to be true. Greenwashing is the industry's dirty secret. Companies that talk a big game on sustainability while quietly polluting. AI becomes a truth engine here. Cross-checking claims. If a company claims carbon neutral by 2025, AI inspects emission baselines, offsets, and supplier emissions to judge plausibility. Temporal consistency checks. Sudden improvements in metrics often trigger alarms. Did emissions drop because of real operational change or because the company bought a large offset package? Network analysis. AI maps supply chains and corporate relationships. Does the supplier network include shell entities or jurisdictions with weak disclosure rules? Such structures often hide environmental harm. These techniques don't just flag greenwashing. They quantify the confidence of the claim. That scoring matters. Investors can weigh real sustainability higher than marketing rhetoric. Portfolio construction tilting toward true climate resilience. Once AI builds reliable ESG signals, the next step is portfolio design. This is not about excluding every company with a fossil fuel tie. It's about tilting portfolios toward climate resilience and social sustainability while preserving returns. Climate risk exposures are modeled by stress testing company cash flows under scenarios like carbon pricing, severe weather, and supply chain disruptions. AI simulates how earnings behave if a coastal plant floods or a critical supplier is sanctioned. Dynamic tilts mean portfolios can shift exposure based on emerging risks, increasing renewable energy leaders in a portfolio when a carbon tax becomes likely, or reducing exposure to companies with fragile supply chains during geopolitical shocks. Factor blending mixes traditional financial factors, value, momentum, with ESG factors, emissions intensity, human rights incidents. So returns are not sacrificed for conscience. The result: portfolios that aim for risk-adjusted returns while materially reducing exposure to climate and social shocks. The predictive edge. Modeling climate and sector risk. AI's predictive power lies in scenario modeling. It doesn't merely score today, it simulates tomorrow. Probabilistic forecasting projects how a company's ESG score and earnings could evolve under a variety of climate scenarios. Will a manufacturer's costs spike if carbon prices double? AI models incorporate policy signals, weather data, and transition pathways. Sector rotation signals emerge when AI finds systemic vulnerability. For instance, if heavy emission sectors suddenly face regulatory tightening, AI can recommend defensive positioning. Tail risk detection identifies companies whose likelihood of catastrophic ESG failures is small but devastating, and suggests hedges or avoidance. These predictive capabilities make ESG investing proactive rather than purely ethical. They protect capital from foreseeable systemic shocks, the human cost, ethical trade-offs, and transparency demands. But here comes the moral crossroads. Algorithms are powerful, but they are not neutral. Biases in data, what gets reported, who has visibility, modeling choices, and proxy variables can produce outcomes that look fair but are misleading. Transparency is non-negotiable. Investors and regulators demand explainability. Why did the algorithm downgrade this company? Which inputs mattered? Tools like SHAP values and feature attribution make these decisions auditable. Accountability means humans must own decisions. Algorithms should inform, not replace, stewardship. AI can flag issues, but engagement, calling companies to fix problems, remains a human responsibility. Equity concerns. Small firms in developing markets may score poorly simply because they lack disclosure resources, not because they are worse actors. A blunt scoring system can unfairly punish these firms and reduce capital flows where sustainable investment could help most. Regulatory and governance. The compliance scaffolding. ESG and AI live in a complex legal web. You must keep governance tight. Data provenance, model explainability, audit trails, and privacy compliance. Record who approved model changes, what data fed retraining, and rationale for investment decisions. Embed compliance sign-offs in deployment pipelines. When operating across jurisdictions, be mindful. Adapt documentation and reporting accordingly. AI gives us a lens to see beyond glossy sustainability narratives and into real-world impacts. But with that power comes duty, transparency, explainability, and human stewardship. Build systems that are rigorous, auditable, and humble, because the markets, regulators, and communities demand nothing less. If you liked this deep dive, hit subscribe and stay tuned for the next technical teardown.